As part of this project with the City of Phoenix, we are assessing the thermal performance of the cool pavement.
Because it's a new product, we wanted to try it in different areas of the city.
Whether the actual improvement for the people, us living in those spaces, are made, and whether those are big enough.
And we look at various temperature values using a suite of different sensors.
I think you're going to see somewhere in the range of 170 Fahrenheit to 180 Fahrenheit for black asphalt, especially that fresh stuff.
It's being a light-colored product is, of course, what makes it unique, but also its solar reflectance. You know, we're measuring that solar reflectivity, a quantifiable amount of how much sun energy is reflected back off of the street.
The surface itself is cooler drastically by probably 5 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
We did vehicle traverses that measured the air temperature distribution in the neighborhood. And we also did helicopter overflights to take surface temperature photos of those neighborhoods to look at the surface temperature distribution in the paved neighborhoods with the cool pavement and the regular neighborhoods with the regular asphalt.
What could one road do versus an entire neighborhood? And that's what we have here. Is we have many entire neighborhoods that have implemented this, and we're able to measure it in the hottest city in the country.
I want to thank ASU and Jason for providing that nice overview video and setting the stage for tonight's meeting. I want to welcome everybody to the City of Phoenix and ASU and the Office of Sustainability and Street Transportation Department's virtual presentation. When the city first applied cool pavement, we promised to come back and share the results. We have a panel of experts here with us tonight, and we're very glad that you've joined us today. We do have a Spanish language line for anyone who prefers to hear the presentation in Spanish. Allow me to introduce our interpreter, Albert Granillo, to explain how this service works. Albert?
Para escuchar esta junta en español, por favor marque el 602-534-1000. Luego el número de la reunión es el 572-7 y luego apriete el símbolo de número.
Thank you. Barring any technical difficulties, this presentation will be available by Friday on our website. And for the first half of tonight's presentation, you'll hear from our expert panelists. Then we'll open it up to questions and answers. On your WebEx screen, you should see a little speech bubble on the lower part of your screen or on the side if you're viewing on a mobile device. That will open up the chat box. Please submit your questions there, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. Let's begin with opening remarks from our Street Transportation Director, Keeney Knutson. Keeney will be followed by Mark Hartman, who is the city's Chief Sustainability Officer. From there, we'll give some background and then get to the all-important results.
Thank you, Heather. Again, I'm Keeney Knutson. I'm the Director of Street Transportation for the City of Phoenix. I want to thank everybody for being here this evening and being a part of this virtual webinar. We're happy to have you, and we're happy to share the information that our esteemed colleagues are going to be providing this evening. A little bit of background, how we got to here. Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country. And it's not just the 5th largest city in the country, but it's one of the fastest growing cities in the country. And with those demands and that kind of growth, we have a lot of different challenges before us. We have nearly 5,000 miles of city streets that my department is responsible for maintaining. But we also, that's spread out over 520 square miles. With all of this growth, one of the big things that we're concerned with is heat resilience. We have a growing urban heat island issue, and we wanted to make sure we have ways to be able to address that. We also want to be able to stretch our maintenance dollars further. So we looked for opportunities to be able to do something unique, something innovative, and we're proud to be able to celebrate some of the things that we're talking about this evening and what we've done with our Cool Pavement pilot program. I'm not going to steal the thunder of those who are going to go after me, but I just wanted to thank you all. We're very excited about this program, and we're just happy you're here this evening. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny, and hello, everyone. Yeah, it's looking at a sustainable city. We are, the vision is actually for Phoenix to be the most sustainable desert city on the planet, really focusing on that desert aspect and certainly around heat. We have a whole potpourri of actions and things that we're exploring to be heat ready. We're part of a global Cool Cities Alliance where we're sharing best practices. But I really like this Cool Pavement, you know, now that we have the most in North America, most cool pavement in North America. And as well, you know, what's intriguing and I think is the biggest thing to really listen for on today's presentation is that, you know, that because the surface is so much cooler, it actually increases durability and will actually make it more economic than traditional coatings. And so that means that if sort of the research shows that it does indeed be more durable, then this is something we can see in every residential street throughout the city, and it will really be impactful citywide. So really excited about that, and certainly it's a great opportunity and great movement, great action by the Streets Department. So thank you very much, and good to be here.
Following me will be Ryan, who would also be presenting on the materials that we installed. So, first of all, I would like to say that this pilot project or pilot program is a collaboration between our Street Transportation Department for City of Phoenix, the City of Phoenix Office of Sustainability, of course, Arizona State University, and our contracting partners who helped install and came up with innovative ideas to install this product, and also our supplier, GuardTop. So why would Phoenix apply Cool Seal? I mean, as you know, Phoenix is a hot city with an average summer temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Last year, Phoenix experienced the hottest summer on record. It just makes sense to pursue opportunities and strategies that reduces heat and help attain a comfortable and livable urban space for our residents. Why is this considered a pilot project in Phoenix? Because it is the first time we are exploring the use of innovative materials on roadways in the city of Phoenix to reduce urban heat island effects and improve livability within the city. And we are also engaging with partners to install, test, and measure the effectiveness and durability of the product over time. And the next question would be, what benefit does Phoenix expect? Well, we expect to increase the solar energy reflectance of our pavements to help reduce surface temperatures, which will hopefully reduce the nighttime urban heat island. Ultimately to improve livability in the city, but also with additional benefits of extending the pavement life due to lesser heat-related stresses in our pavement. So why Cool Pavement? Why pavement? You know, pavement can cover about 30 to 40% of the urban area, and they contribute to high temperatures. Darker pavement surfaces are hotter. Now, as shown on the images here by the red areas, than lighter colored surfaces, which are indicated by the blue areas and the yellow areas in the thermal images. This is because lighter colored surfaces reflect more solar energy. They absorb less than dark colored surfaces, which reflect less solar energy. So they absorb more heat. Because of darker colored surfaces absorb more heat, the streets are last to cool down at night, which contributes to the urban heat island effect. Next, I'm going to talk about the project location. Locations for the pilot projects are spread throughout the city. The city has 8 council districts. So one neighborhood was selected per council district And the mayor also selected a location. So we have 8 neighborhoods and 1 park, totaling about 9 locations throughout the city. We installed a total of 36 miles, which is about 58 kilometers, of residential roadways, which is currently one of the largest in North America. Okay, our locations were selected initially based, or they were identified based on appropriate pavement conditions. In addition to that, the council offices also had input. So this ended up being, 8 locations throughout the city. This approach, though, helped us because, as you know, the city is spread very wide and precipitation varies throughout the city. We started installation in mid-August and completed it in early November. So I would now turn it over to Ryan Stevens, my colleague, to talk about the project or the product that we installed.
Thank you very much, Ruben. You can go ahead to the next slide. So the product that we selected is called Cool Seal. It's by a company called GuardTop. This is a product that we discovered through a Federal Highway Administration workshop in the city of Los Angeles. It is an asphalt-based seal coat. That means that it is a mixture of asphalt, water, emulsifiers, and polymers. All of these go to allowing it to be a spreadable product that adheres very well to the street. It's a safe, non-toxic product that is suitable for activities that occur on the roadway, so such as driving, walking, skating, scootering, biking, all of those things. It is light in color, and with that, it enhances the solar reflectivity, as Ruben mentioned earlier. It's applied by a spray method that is shown here in this image, or with a squeegee. We actually did some innovation in our pilot project by going to a spray method. It allows for more product to be placed in a shorter amount of time, improving efficiency and decreasing the impact on the public as the product is installed. One of the most important features for the streets department for the city is that as an asphalt-based seal coat, it is compatible with our existing asphalt surfaces. Nearly all of our streets in the city are asphalt, and so when it comes time for the street to eventually be milled and recycled, having a compatible product is very important to us, as opposed to a paint or a latex product that might in fact contaminate future asphalt millings for reuse. And unlike paint, it is a durable seal coat, similar to other products we use in the city. This video is a quick demonstration of the squeegee process that we did in Esteban Park. So there are machines, both large and small, that go around and apply the product, and it is finished by hand. This is our very first installation, so this is the method we used, but we challenged both the supplier and the contractor to really be innovative and get the spray methodology to work for the city of Phoenix. And this is really what the majority of our installations look like. Large trucks that spray the coating in 2 coats, while the edges are still done by hand, but still with a spray methodology. So with that, I will turn it over to Arizona State University for the crux of why everyone is really here to hear the results of our year 1 study. So I'm happy to introduce Jennifer Vanas and Ariane Medal from Arizona State University.
Great. Thank you, Ryan and Kenny and Ruben and Mark for that great background on the project and for that introduction. My name is Jennifer Vanas. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Sustainability at Arizona State University, and I am a co-lead on this project with Dr. Ariane Medal, who will be speaking first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ariane Medal. I'm the co-lead of this study with Dr. Vanas.
and I'm an assistant professor with the School of Arts, Media and Engineering and the School of Computing and Augmented Intelligence at ASU. The results we will present today would not have been possible without the support of the City of Phoenix, and we're really highly appreciative of our city liaisons, Kini Knudsen, Mark Hartman, Ruben, Lolly, and Ryan Stevens, who you've who you heard speak just now. Okay, so let's look at some more participants. The ASU team spans faculty from various disciplines and schools, and we're all members of the Urban Climate Research Center at ASU. And I would like to point out that our colleague, Dr. David Saylor, the director of the center, will be on the panel here with us to answer questions after our presentation. Other investigators include Dr. David Chandula with the School of Geographical Sciences and Urban Planning, Dr. Camille Kalouche with Sustainable Engineering, and then some key student researchers and postdocs include Jose Medina and Florian Schneider. And we also received tremendous support from Bill Campbell, who is with the Wanton Sustainability Solutions Service at ASU. So this presentation is divided into 3 parts. I will start off with an overview of the various measurements we took to assess the impacts of the cool pavement, and then Dr. Vinoss will take over to present the results of the study and the next steps. So first of all, I will present the different types of sensors and strategies that we used during our fieldwork campaigns that started in summer 2020 through May 2021. So the overarching question we would like to answer here in this study is, what is the impact of cool pavement on urban heat? And to answer this question, we collected data in 3 ways. First, we conducted full-day measurements on site in 3 of the 8 neighborhoods that had been treated with a cool seal. And we measured the local microclimate on 3 extreme heat days in August and September of 2020. As part of this measurement campaigns, we measured surface temperature, air temperature, and mean radiant temperature over the cool pavement, and we compared those measurements to regular asphalt roads in the exact same neighborhood. We also collected long-term data over the course of 7 to 10 months. That is, we buried eye buttons, those are small temperature sensors, in the pavement to monitor subsurface temperatures, and then we measured the pavement reflectivity once every month between November and May. And then finally, this summer, we mailed surveys to residents in the cool pavement neighborhoods to ask them about their experience with the Cool Seal product. Here's a table of the full day fieldwork days last summer in District 8, 5, and 1. Those measurement days we selected were August 18, September 5th, and September 20th. And I would like to point out here, if you look at the very last column, the maximum daily temperature ranged between 106 and 115 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was fairly hot during those days, clear skies, no clouds, so very typical summer days here in Phoenix. For the air and surface temperature measurements, we conducted vehicle traverses in 3 of the 8 neighborhoods. This example here shows Maryvale, which is District 5. The colored roads that you see are the routes of the vehicle traverses, so the purple and orange and red colors. And then the blue box that you see indicates which streets in the neighborhood had actually received the cool seal, as opposed to the regular asphalt. The car traversed the neighborhood 4 hours per day, 2 loops per hour. We started at 4 in the morning, just before sunrise, when it's usually the coolest in terms of air temperature. Then at noon, which is when the sun is highest in the sky, 3 o'clock, which is close to the maximum air temperature of the day, and then 7 o'clock at night, which is around sunset. To measure the air temperature, we attached fine wire thermocouples to the windows of the car. So we had 2 to 3 sensors on the car. To the right hand side of this slide, you can see the air temperature sensor that's attached to the window. And then for the surface temperature measurements, we used an infrared radiometer that was attached at the bottom front of the vehicle. So that's the sensor to the left that you can see on this slide. We also measured the mean radiant temperature, and the mean radiant temperature is essentially the heat load that a human body experiences when you're outdoors walking over those surfaces. So it's essentially the air temperature and the radiant temperature together combined. The radiant temperature consists of the shortwave radiation. You can think of this as the visible sunlight, so the sunshine that you see, and then the UV radiation. And the long wave radiation is essentially the heat that's emitted from hot surfaces. So if you're standing on top of a hot asphalt parking lot, for example, and you feel the heat creeping up on you, that's the long wave radiation. And we used MARDI, which is a mobile weather station, to observe mean radiant temperature across the cool sealed surfaces and the regular asphalt pavement in these neighborhoods. To complement these measurements, we conducted helicopter overflights to capture the surface temperature from a bird's-eye view. And this slide here shows images that were taken actually prior to the cool pavement installation on August 7. And the top images are for District 4 and the bottom images are for District 5. The images were taken between noon and 1 o'clock, so that's when the surface temperatures are expected to peak. And you can see that the conventional asphalt and the concrete roads are really red hot in these images. It's about 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and then the vegetation, the trees and the lawns are much cooler with about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. In addition to the dedicated field trips, we monitored the reflectivity of the cool pavement and the regular asphalt over a 7-month period between November 2020 and May 2021. The image to the left shows Johnny Cordova, one of our students, and he's taking a reflectivity reading with a spectrometer. And the goal here is to see if the reflectivity and the effectiveness essentially of the cool pavement declines over time. To assess the durability of the cool pavement, Dr. Kalush's lab installed eye buttons at 1/2 inch and 3 inches depth in the asphalt to measure subsurface temperatures over a 10-month period. And at the same time, the quality of the cool pavement was visually assessed. And Dr. Kalush's group also started some preliminary bond testing in the lab, essentially trying to see how well the seal sticks to the asphalt. And then finally, to understand the community perceptions and impacts of the cool pavement, we conducted interviews with residents in spring 2021. And then we mailed out a survey this past summer that just closed, and we received 110 responses, which is slightly above a 5% response rate. And I'll now hand it over to co-lead Dr. Vanas to present our findings.
Thank you, Dr. Medell. So that was definitely a lot that we did in terms of methods. And so I'm excited to give you a big picture, high level overview of some of the results and summarize what we found. We also hope that you're able to download our executive summary and the full report from the City of Phoenix website after this presentation. So starting with surface reflectivity, as that's a really important parameter to measure in terms of how much reflectance we will see and then how hot those surface temperatures will get. We looked at this over 7 months and started with a surface reflectivity around 33 to 38% when installed. After approximately 7 months, that decreased to approximately 19 to 30% reflectivity. These reflectivities can be compared to our control of untreated conventional asphalt, which has a reflectivity of 12% for this period. Importantly, there's differences across neighborhoods that can be caused due to the amount of traffic, dust, dirt, the amount of rain, and the amount of cleaning. In terms of surface temperature results, what I'm showing you here is an image of Maryville and the vehicle traverse measurements taken of the surface temperature, and the yellow indicates lighter or I guess cooler temperatures than the red and orange. And so this is where the cool seal was applied in this Maryville neighborhood. This is taken at 12:30 p.m. and then we have conventional asphalt here. If we look at these differences across the day, we saw on average that the cool seal or cool pavement was 12 to 15 or 12 degrees Fahrenheit to 10.5 degrees Fahrenheit cooler at noon and afternoon hours. At sunrise, it was approximately 2.4 degrees lower, and at sunset, it was approximately 4.8 degrees Fahrenheit lower. And we can also look at these surface temperatures with the helicopter overflights that were mentioned. And what's nice is we have some images when the cool seal was applied to half a road and not half a road. And so we can see in this depiction that at approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon on October 21st, the cool seal was approximately 11 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than the conventional pavement. And you can also compare these to some of the rooftops with these images. Other images taken in September, on September 10th, some similar differences. You can see the cool seal applied here and not here, and see about 7.5 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. And then again, in this neighborhood, we have half the road done, and we see 11.6 degrees Fahrenheit cooler on the surface temperature of the cool seal. In terms of air results, we saw on average that the air temperature was decreased above the cool pavement than regular asphalt in the evening by approximately 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and during the day by approximately 0.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Some reasons for these smaller values has a lot to do with the scale of the deployment and the size of the neighborhoods, and understanding that mixing of air occurs between areas of the neighborhoods and among the neighborhoods, and especially when you think from the surface up to 6 feet in height where the temperature sensors were placed. There's also variability among the neighborhoods in terms of tree, shade, and vegetation, and the type of land use patterns. So you can think of xeriscaped versus grassy areas. And we feel that it's a very important area of future work to gather more precise measurements closer to the surface and using a vertical gradient upwards to really understand what the influence of the cool seal is on the air temperatures within these neighborhoods. In terms of the mean radiant temperature results, we saw an increase at noon and afternoon on average by 5.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and slightly lower at sunrise and sunset by 0.5. This 5.5 degrees Fahrenheit is similar to what you might experience if you walked over concrete. And this is essentially going to cause a decrease in thermal comfort as people will be exposed to that higher level of solar radiation from the surface in the middle of the day. However, these higher values of mean radiant temperature may be a necessary trade-off to reduce these surface temperatures using this reflectivity of the surface method. In terms of the subsurface temperature results and some performance estimates, we saw on average 5.1 degrees Fahrenheit and 4.6 degrees Fahrenheit reduction in the top and bottom temperatures respectively versus the control, so versus a conventional asphalt surface that was untreated. And then when you looked at the temperature differences between those two layers, what we found was a 2 degrees Fahrenheit lower difference under the cool pavement. So this indicates less conductivity between those layers, which is important. These values can indicate potential reduction in the thermal stress of the pavement, which can increase the longevity of the pavement. Lastly, our resident perception survey. We just closed the survey this summer, and we're just going through some preliminary results, which we can share a bit with you now, and then they will be added as an appendix to the full report. However, overall, we see satisfaction with the communication from the city about the Cool Pavement pilot program, and a deep interest from the community in learning more about the Cool Pavement itself. There's some divergent opinions, importantly expressed among residents concerning the visual appeal and aesthetics of the Cool Pavement, potential impacts on property values, interest in the longevity of the coating, which we hope to continue studying, and the surface friction. But overall, collectively, the interviews that we did and the preliminary results from the residents point to some good opportunities for additional resident engagement and education concerning the Cool Pavement. So overall, we have presented to you a holistic assessment of both the physical and social indicators of the Cool Pavement at various timescales, both very micro scale in terms of time and space, and then longer term. These provide really critical insights for future work, as well as useful information for the City of Phoenix moving forward, and cities globally looking to us who might have some similar goals with respect to heat mitigation and performance of pavement. We see large opportunities for longer term performance testing to answer questions that can only be answered in the long term, especially things around bonding and performance, and to see if we can lengthen the longevity or the lifetime of the pavement. We see opportunities for additional resident engagement and education, those higher end air temperature tests I mentioned. Also opportunities to test new types of cool pavement colors that are being developed by companies, as well as opportunities to try to support or understand the optimal location selection. For example, we know that based on the physics of how this project works, open lots and that are not shaded or low-rise residential areas are more optimal in terms of making sure that that sunlight can be reflected back out of the city. However, we would have concerns if it's put in playgrounds or in athletic courts or parks where people might be spending time in the middle of the day, and it could decrease thermal comfort. And then areas that are already shaded may not benefit as much from this by trees or in high-rise downtown areas. And so thinking about future work, we hope to continue long-term performance testing, evaluate these new surface coatings. And another important area is to assess the related environmental, health, and social benefits of these cool seal surfaces. So with that, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to share our methods and results with you, and we look forward to any questions on the panel.
Well, thank you very much. This concludes the formal portion of our presentation. So we're going to open it up for questions, and a couple of good ones have already come in. And I think the first question is probably going to go to the city street transportation team. We have an attendee who wants to know the material cost difference between traditional black asphalt and the cool seal product.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to throw some numbers out here. So during the time when we're doing this project, on the same project, we had our regular fog seal. There's two types. There's one called a PMRE, which is comparable to the cool seal because the material has a body to it. That material costs about $4.40 a square yard, and cool seal costs about $5 a square yard. So it's very comparable, you know, in terms of that. With this regular fog seal, which has no body to it at all, that's $1.35, but that's not comparable to cool seal. So I would say 2 cents or 20 cents, there's a difference per square yard applied. But, you know, considering the additional benefit of cool seal, so I would say the life cycle cost in terms of reducing stresses in pavement due to the reduced heat and also the sustainability benefits, I think the benefit outweighs the difference in cost.
Thank you. The next question is, what thickness was the treatment that was applied, and how long will it last at various traffic counts?
So we didn't actually measure the thicknesses, just like we measure for seals, but typically it's expected that at the best case scenario, it lasts around 7 years. And also this treatment is currently the one we applied. It's only suitable for local streets, not arterial streets. So local street and minor collector streets. That's where we apply it now.
And if I may, this is Keeney, just jumping in on Ruben's answer as well, is to put it in perspective, of our nearly 5,000 miles of streets, 4,000 of those miles are on our residential streets, our local residential streets. So we would have a lot more potential streets to do this if we continue with this program, when we continue this program, before we get to those streets where and normally those residential streets are not striped as well, so we don't have to worry about the striping on top of this material, though other entities or other agencies are striping on top of cool seal. But we do have a lot of opportunities to be able to expand this without having to go beyond the local street.
Thank you, Keeney. As a follow-up to that question, we have a question about how is this changing the way you stripe the roads? I think you answered that, but if you can tackle that one as well.
Yeah, Heather, I can answer that. There are a few striped streets within our pilot program. Since this has the appearance of concrete, it has a matte finish and is concrete colored, we are able to stripe with our normal white and yellow stripes that we use in the city. If you think about freeway underpasses or overpasses that have concrete decks, you still see the white and yellow stripes. So at this point, we're still able to use our normal striping colors.
I have another question. Has there been an assessment on the surface coating extending the life of the existing asphalt road surfaces?
Yes, that's one of the studies that ASU conducted. Even though they haven't quantified it, it was measured that the thermal gradient in the cool sill pavement was less than a regular asphalt. So if the thermal gradient is less, then it means that the stress due to heat is relatively lesser, which means that it will, prolong how long cracks are formed or how long cracks are propagated in the pavement. But that study will continue.
Ruben, we had a lot of reverberation in your answer, and I was not able to hear you very clearly. I don't know if you're near Ryan, but maybe we could have Ryan or Keeney answer that question.
I'll just reiterate what Ruben said. The initial results from ASU's current study showed less thermal difference between the top and bottom layers of the asphalt. We expect that will help prolong the asphalt in addition to the length of the coating itself protecting the asphalt. It's like sunscreen. So it has, it does its thing for a while, protecting the pavement surface. So to quantify that is something we're still looking forward to doing further research on in terms of this treatment compared to other treatments in our pavement management system and our toolbox of treatments.
Thank you, Ryan. This might be another question for our team at the Street Transportation Department, but how does the coating affect driving as far as sun blindness or glare?
I guess I'll try to answer that. Certainly it has a different color, but it does have a matte finish. So it really does take on the appearance of cured fresh concrete, which it can be quite bright, but glare is a complex issue. I know when I drive down the road, even on a black traditional asphalt road, if the sun is just right, I can get a glare off of a black surface. So we don't believe it's going to be any different from how the streets currently operate. Sometimes there's glare, sometimes there's not, but it should not be different from other coatings that we use.
And a two-part question here. Is the coating safe for rain runoff, and what is the coating made from? I know that was covered early in the presentation, but maybe we can go over that again.
Sure. So the coating is non-toxic. It is an asphalt-based product. So it has asphalt, which is what our roads are made of. That is suspended in water with emulsifiers. Basically, those are different types of soap that suspend the asphalt in water as it's applied. And then polymers, so plastics and other sort of polymers that give it additional strength. There's also some aggregates, some material, some actual solids material and titanium dioxide, which is part of the reflective properties. So all of these are materials that are already used in construction. So are definitely no worse for rain runoff than products we already use in construction and in pavement maintenance.
And another one that you and Ruben might be able to answer, can the product be mixed with regular asphalt so it can be used in normal paving and resurfacing projects?
Can you hear me? That isn't something that we have researched, and we wouldn't say that's the case. We'd have to talk to the manufacturer about that. But as far as it can indicate, or we can indicate, that is not something that we would recommend.
Thank you, Ruben. And maybe for ASU and the City of Phoenix, can you expand on your future plans? When and how many more street miles are you looking to test?
I guess that one's for me. I think this is the first phase of what we wanted to evaluate. We wanted to do a pilot program. We wanted to see how it operates within Phoenix, street and traffic conditions and in our neighborhoods, and see what the impact is. We've been fortunate enough to have ASU in our backyard helping us with the evaluation and to see how this really does work. We have more to be able to evaluate. This is going to continue because this is just 1 year in. We want to be able to see the benefits of this over multiple years, to see especially on the maintenance piece and how long this treatment will last, what benefit it will have to the actual pavement underneath the treatment surface. So there's a lot of things we need to work on to be able to look at this, but I'm very enthusiastic about the results so far. Nothing to announce yet today, but I think very soon we will be looking at opportunities to be able to expand. But there will be, we just wanted to celebrate what we've been able to accomplish thus far and the results thus far, but there will be more on the horizon, I'm sure.
Next question is, how does a cool pavement approach compare to other strategies like planting additional shade trees on these streets in terms of the cooling effect?
I'm not sure if our partners over at Arizona at ASU would like to weigh in that at all of other research they might have done in this topic, but I know from Phoenix's perspective, we just recently received approval for a program where we're going to be putting more shade trees into our neighborhoods and along our city streets, where we are trying to establish that same cooling effect, where we have neighborhoods that, for a variety of reasons, equity concerns, how they were developed, are traditionally hotter than other areas of the city. And so we see the opportunities with this cool pavement program to be going alongside this program, which is actually called Cool Corridors for the tree planting, and to see how those function together or separately to see the benefits of that. So we see opportunities to be able to continue that research here in Phoenix on exactly that question. And not just how they function separately, but how they could work together as well.
Yeah, and I would add to that that really the cool pavement is where for the cars and where the cars are driving, and it's typically people that walk down the center of the street, and the cool corridors, the pedestrian areas along the sidewalks. And so there are almost two different spots along the corridors, one where the pedestrians are and one where the cars are. So they could complement one another nicely. But yeah, we'll definitely be moving forward on both of those initiatives, and there will be kind of exploring the cross effects and benefits of those.
I can also chime in on this a little bit to complement what has just been said. When you plant trees, it takes about 5 years for shade to form and establish, but the impact of cool seal is almost immediate. So, they can work together to in the long run, establish those cool corridors.
Yeah, and I'd love to quickly jump in on this. This is an area of research that we have a lot of people at ASU's Urban Climate Research Center working on. Dr. Medell, Dr. Saylor, who are on this panel. It's an area we'd love to study more, and it definitely depends on the location and the timing, like Ruben just said. And so as we think about the right location for trees and the right location for cool pavement, in the end, for a city like Phoenix, there's not going to be one solution that solves heat problems. And so figuring out what are the interactive effects and how these can work together in a positive way along larger streets like Mark Hartman just mentioned, and then provide the shade for the residents on the sidewalks is really important to consider and to measure.
Thank you, everyone. We did have a request, and hopefully we can have a team approach to this question. How about a quick summary in layman's terms? Was the area cooler? Did the neighbors feel it was cooler? Did anybody say it worked so well they think everyone should have this?
I'll jump in with the last question. I'll let everybody else kind of chime in on the first part, but the last one, we have definitely already had communities, neighborhoods who've requested, when is ours next? We would like this, we love this. And so, you know, when we have it ready to expand this program, I am anticipating we'll have people lined up and neighborhoods lined up to be able to receive this pavement treatment. So we're excited about its future, and we're excited about our residents being excited about it as well.
So in terms of people liking it, you know, mine is anecdotal. There's nothing that is 100% foolproof. Regardless of what you do, some people would love it, some people would not love it. So, but most of my anecdotal experience has been, you know, positive. A lot of people like it. I've done presentations at multiple neighborhood, you know, meetings that want this, and some of them that already had it thanked us. But I wouldn't say one person speaks for everybody. There are a few people who ask questions about glare, just like you asked. There are a few people who ask questions about friction, just like you asked. But, you know, to me, my overall
I might throw in a little add-on here about sort of the magnitude of the impact. So, you know, what we've been talking about so far is essentially a comparison of an aged asphalt surface to a brand new pool seal. And the correct comparison really is, how would you seal that pavement? Normally, it would be a very dark seal. And so it would actually be much hotter than the alternative of the cool seal. So I think when we look at the alternatives, it's important to recognize that, you know, in measurements that we've taken, even an aged asphalt is, you know, 10 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than a fresh dark seal coat. And then the cool seal is 10 degrees cooler on top of that. And so, you know, the effects, I think, would be similar in terms of the impact on air temperatures.
Thank you. We had someone ask a question about why wouldn't the cool pavements be good for playgrounds or downtowns, especially considering that our sidewalks are a similar color to the cool pavement. And I'm wondering if Ari or Jenny could address that question.
Sure, I'd love to take a stab at it since I mentioned it in the talk, and then I'd love for Dr. Medal to also answer. A lot of that's thinking about, with respect to the playgrounds, the time of day that playgrounds would be used, and the necessity to try to provide shade in playgrounds. And so often if you're going to pave over an entire playground and use reflective pavement, and it'll be used in the middle of the day, that can reduce the comfort for the kids and reflect sunlight back up at them if you don't have shade in place. And it's harder to plant shade and provide shade for the children when you have concrete down versus something like grass or soil. So that's the main reason for playgrounds, and I'd love to talk more about playgrounds at another time. In terms of thinking about a downtown, like high-rise area, when the sunlight hits the surface, it needs to bounce up and try and escape the city. And if we have tall buildings in the way, it'll hit the buildings and it just bounces around and kind of sticks around in the urban areas, which is one of the reasons we see our overnight urban heat island effect. And so it doesn't mean you cannot put it in the downtown area, but in terms of selecting optimal locations where it can have the best performance, that might not be one of them. And then thinking too about the size of roads, wider roads that don't have the shading on them to prevent the radiation from getting out are better. And then the sidewalks you mentioned are very narrow, and they're not going to really cause too much of an influence on people, and should be shaded, hopefully. I don't know if Dr. Medal, you have anything to add?
I have a shade comment. So if you think about the center Phoenix downtown area where the roads are actually a little bit more narrow, I mean, not a lot, but a little bit more, then you get a lot of shade from the tall buildings in the morning and in the afternoon, maybe not during the day, but on other times of day. And as soon as you shade the cool pavement, it becomes less effective because the way it works is it takes the direct sunlight and reflects it back into the atmosphere. But if it's not hit by the direct sunlight, then the effect of added reflection back is minimized because it's already shaded. So if you have downtown, for example, New York would be an area where cool pavement just would not work because there's so much shade throughout the day that there's almost no point in using it.
We have a question about the reflectivity. Can you clean this treatment to bring back the reflectivity, or have you tested the reflectivity after one of our big monsoon storms or something like that?
Well, I can say it is a stain-resistant product, and I've seen firsthand that just with some water and some sweeping, brushing, a lot of that dirt comes right off. Unfortunately, I believe during the examination period, we didn't get our monsoons because they happened just a few months afterwards. So, but I would expect if we measured after the monsoon, you would see some increases compared to it getting dirty. Anecdotally, we're not seeing the product wear off necessarily. So, I do believe that those decreases are from the accumulation of dirt. So a more regular monsoon would actually help those readings.
And I can add, in the report, we do identify the times in which street sweeping occurred in the neighborhoods to try to see if that changed the surface reflectivity, and it varied by neighborhood. And we did get a little bit of rain, I think it was last December, and then some in March, that we got some reflectivity measurements after as well and saw a slight increase. But yes, we hope to continue to do these reflectivity measurements. And I think we did have our postdoctoral researcher go out and do visual assessments of this, which we mentioned in the report.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead to a couple of other questions. We had one technical question about skid resistance, and I know we have a question about skid resistance on our FAQs for the page, but perhaps Reuben or Ryan could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we try to measure the skid resistance on our cool pavement. But the skid resistance measurement that we did was at speeds of 40 miles an hour, which does not apply in a residential area. So our overall measurement was quite inconclusive, but we haven't seen any reason to be concerned about skid resistance in the cool pavement areas.
Thank you. What can residents expect, and what are the potential implications for low-income, Black, Brown, or older vulnerable communities, given that they are the most vulnerable to heat-associated illness and mortality?
So I think I'll kind of tackle that question a little bit, that when we were talking about this, both the Cool Pavement program and the Cool Corridors program with the tree and shade, one of the factors we're going to be using in the future when we look at this is looking at those exact kind of areas where we have traditionally underserved areas where we don't have the shade component, or where we have hotter neighborhoods just because of the way those communities developed over time. And so I think those areas will benefit much greater from us doing both Cool Pavement and Cool Corridors in the future. And so we know that's going to be a factor when we are looking to expand this program.
And I think I'd want to add on as well that, this is one solution, is not the silver bullet of this is our big thing we're doing. It's a whole, as I said, start a potpourri of actions and things such as Phoenix having the walkable urban code that requires 75% shade around those new developments. And combined with, a lot of our tree and shade master plan invitation, we're looking at planting a lot of trees, both in residential streets and on the arterials, and then looking at some structured shade and public art that creates shade. So really trying to find, use all the tools that we have to really basically cool the urban environment. We're seeing that, urban environments are a lot warmer during the day than the surrounding rural areas. And so our goal is to really try to match and move the city to be more like the rural areas around us, particularly with things like green infrastructure, bioswales, and lots of other opportunities.
I have a question for the ASU team. How was reflectivity measured? Was it measured with visible light, UV? Was emissivity analyzed, et cetera?
I can take a stab at that. We used a spectrometer to measure the reflectivity. The spectrometer, and I'm just grabbing the wavelengths. The spectrometer measures the wavelengths from about 350 nanometers to 2,500 nanometers. And so it's measuring mostly in the solar spectrum. And so and we can break it down between the UVA to the visible 400 to 700, and then beyond 700 in the near IR. And so in the report, we do break it down in a graph there that can show you the reflectivity from those different wavelengths. I don't know if Dr. Saylor or Dr. Medell have anything to add to that.
I guess I would just add, I think there was a question earlier in the chat about color, and one thing that's important to think about, and it's not just in terms of this technology, but also in terms of when we think about reflective technologies on building walls and rooftops and sloped rooftops at that, only about 40% of the energy content of the sun is in the visible spectrum. So we can actually design, material scientists can design coatings and surfaces that actually are very highly reflective to the sun's energy without necessarily being glaringly white. And so I think there's an active area of research in there. And I think, in the years to come, we're going to see just an increase in reflectivity of surfaces without necessarily noticing a color change.
Thank you. Another question, has the material been applied over rubberized asphalt yet?
We did apply it in our regular overlay locations, and but I would not be able to confirm if it was rubberized or not, because we have gone away from like rubberized asphalt. We use something called a TR blend, which has digested tire rubber, which is not. I would say the rubber is completely digested, and then the polymer, the dark carbon in the rubber, is used to manifest color, dark color, and that's the kind of location that we did pave on. So in terms of rubberized asphalt, technically no, but in general I would say yes, because they are TR locations.
There's a question for the ASU team. In your scientific experiments, did you take temperature measurements at a measured distance from other surface materials?
I can start that one. Yes. Yeah, so we have a lot of in situ thermal camera measurements that we took, and then at each stop also with the cart we had handheld surface temperature measurements across different surfaces that could affect the mean radiant temperature. And then the car, as you saw with the sensor on the front, has surface temperature measurements, which were near the center of the road, so a distance from any other materials. And in the report, there's some nice on-the-ground thermal images and reports of these surface temperatures as well.
Yeah, and all measurements were taken pretty much in the center of the road to be as far as possible away from any surfaces that may interfere with the readings. And we took several measurements across the whole neighborhood and averaged the results. So whatever change was in the surface composition in the surrounding would be evened out. And we stayed away from metal surfaces and anything that might interfere with these readings.
Thank you for that. We had a question that says, thermal photographs show the rooftops heating up as hot as the residential streets. Can this product be applied to rooftops? And what about using it on parking lots?
I want to pass the rooftop question to Dave Saylor, because he does work on that.
and we actually have a number of projects going on right now looking at different technologies for rooftop applications. So as I mentioned earlier, only 40% of the energy of the sun is in the visible spectrum. So there are companies that are marketing commercial products today, especially in locations like California, where there are some mandates that have extremely high solar reflectance, but to you and I would look just kind of like an off, tan or off gray, that sort of thing. So you can find, paint on coatings, you can find metallic extrusions, and you can find, well, of course, just simple EPDM rubberized, membranes that you can put on commercial roofs, all of which can have solar reflectances that are much higher than what we're dealing with here on the streets. And then when you put the solar reflecting materials on rooftops, we're actually even using some what are called supercool or passive radiative cooling film technologies that reflect, well over 90% of the energy of the sun. And when you put that on a rooftop, let's say of a big Walmart, for example, as I think I see in one of the notes here, not only do you provide a cooler surface that actually can remain cooler than the ambient air all of the time, so it cools the neighborhood, you also are reducing the absorbed energy into the roof, so you're saving air conditioning energy use for the building. So putting cool coatings on rooftops is just it's a no-brainer, really. It's a really obvious opportunity. I think also, like for these cool paving products, parking lots are a huge opportunity. There's an ownership question there in terms of who manages these surfaces, and it's not the city typically, with some exceptions. So my comment there.
Kenny, would you like to follow that one up about large parking lots?
Yeah, obviously, my main focus is our 5,000 miles of streets and what we can do to do something like this and to expand the program. But I would be remiss, and I know that I've already had conversations with others, including some manufacturers as well, as about how this might be, and even some developers, how this might be applied and encouraged to be applied on private development, including private parking lots. So that's a conversation that is being initiated. We're nothing to announce there at all. Way too early for that. But that's something that I think there is some interest in the development community, and there's obviously it just makes sense if this is beneficial on city streets. If you had a wider range of horizontal asphalt pavement like we have in most commercial areas, it makes sense to try to expand that reach that way. So it does make sense, and so we're going to continue to work that way and try to encourage that.
And I know we're at time here. I appreciate your patience with all the questions. I think we've gotten to most of them, but we have a question from somebody who's heard that this technology might just decrease the energy use and cost for air conditioning based on the results that you see now. Do you foresee this as a possible outcome in the neighborhoods where cool pavement exists?
You said decrease energy use, right?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, so kind of in connection with some of the conversation that we had earlier about will the neighborhood residents feel it? There are studies out there, including a recent review paper that we were part of, and some analysis that we've done about, say, Maricopa County. If you simply reduce the air temperature by 1 degree Fahrenheit, your average person walking outside on a 115-degree day may not notice it, but they're going to notice it across the city, across the county in their energy bills, because a 1 degree Fahrenheit reduction in air temperature will save ratepayers, residential ratepayers, on the order of $15 million per year in avoided air conditioning costs. And about the same magnitude of benefits for the commercial sector. And then, of course, you have all these other follow-on benefits in terms of health outcomes and water use and so forth. So, yeah, that 1 degree reduction in air temperatures definitely saves on energy, but it also helps in many other areas.
Thank you so much. I think now would be a good time for any final parting remarks, along with an answer to the question that was asked in the chat box. How can I get cool pavement in my neighborhood?
I guess ASU can't answer that one. That's gonna be me. I think when we are ready to discuss or talk about expansion of the program, we will definitely have some opportunities to be able to provide input that way. I will tell you there are some factors that we look at, not just heat-related factors, but we also look at the pavement condition as well to make sure it's in a good condition enough to be able to put something like this. Because obviously, if we're not going to be doing maintenance for a while on a roadway, we want to make sure it's in good enough condition to receive a treatment like this. But we're just glad that everybody is excited about this, and we'll have more to announce, I'm sure, shortly. But I think I just wanted to be able to thank everybody who's been involved in it, those who are on the attending this evening, but also our partners at ASU, my city staff team who've done a great job, Office of Sustainability. They've been fantastic in helping us get through this, and so a big thank you.
We don't have any questions from the Spanish language line, so we can go ahead and wrap up our meeting this evening with some final remarks. If anybody else has remarks to add to Keeney's. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up then, if everybody's going to give me the silent treatment here. We do thank you all for participating tonight. As I mentioned at the beginning, and I know some people joined late, we do have plans to post this on our website. And that website is at the very beginning of the chat, Phoenix.gov/streets/cool pavement. And we will have that presentation posted before the end of the week. So thank you so much for attending this evening, and be safe out there.